So my name is Muhammad Karim bin Nabil. So today, me and my group mate gonna explain or elaborate more about the article which name as How Independent Are Independent Director. So it's quite interesting from the title itself. This article take it from the Star newspaper which on 18 May 2019 if I'm not mistaken. Basically, this article talk about Securities Commission report, Bursa Malaysia listing rules, and give some suggestion to related bodies such as Securities Commission to make the rules become better. The aim of this article actually is to highlight that our government want to establish a task force to coordinate effort to make Malaysia an excellent nation under CGW, which we know them as Corporate Governance Watch if I'm not mistaken. Why? It is because the old rules and regulation not being followed by most of the company and directors. Who will be in charge for this task force? This responsibility is given to our former Bank Negara Governor, Tan Sri Dr. Zeti Ahta Aziz. So during April 2019, which is last year, Securities Commission released one new document which explain detail about corporate Malaysia adoption and compliance to the Malaysian Code of Corporate Governance 2017, which named as Corporate Governance Monitor 2019. There are some media that already talk about the issues related with the CEO as well as board diversity. But this article focus more on the independent director. Why? It is because this director play a huge role in a company. According to Securities Commission report, from 930 listed companies in Malaysia, they have almost 5,000 director holding and 6,000 board position. From these 6,000 board position, 3,000 of them were held by independent non-executive director. So it's a huge number actually because they hold almost half of all board position and 47.8% pool of all director in Malaysia. But the question that raised from the article is, are all these directors truly independent? So my group mate will elaborate more about this issue. Stay tuned.
Hi, Assalamualaikum. My name is Abang Irfan. Now, based on the code, the tenure of an independent director shall not be more than 9 years. After the 9 years, if the board wants to retain the position of its independent non-executive director, they should seek and justify the annual shareholders' approval. If the board continues to retain their independent non-executive director, after the 12th year, the board should seek the annual shareholders' approval through a two-tier voting process. Now, according to the Securities Commission's findings, it found out that the longest ever serving independent non-executive director was for 40 years. Now, that is a very long time. Now, again, according to the Securities Commission's report, it said that there are 3 such directors who held office between 31 years and 40 years, while 66 directors held for 21 until 30 years. And there are 322 directors holding between 13 years and 20 years. And lastly, there are 394 directors holding office between 9 to 12 years. Now, the second point is that these independent non-executive directors are not from the pool of young people, but rather from a pool of retirees, because most of them are aged between 61 years to 70 years. Now, the average of a male independent non-executive director is 62 years, but for the woman is 57 years in average. And the youngest independent non-executive director's age was 26 years, and the most senior of them all is 92 years.
I will continue on SC reports as we noted before. Based on the code, among of many more requirements listed in Malaysian Code of Corporate Governance 2017, one of it is the lifespan of an independent director position must not exceed 9 years of service in a company. However, according to SC reports, out of 930 listed companies, 273 companies have been serving for more than 12 years. Statistically, among these 273 companies, a total of 218 companies have independent non-executive directors that have been serving them between 13 years to 20 years. 52 companies between 21 years to 30 years, and 3 companies between 31 years to 40 years. So, how this can happen? Another more evidence also coming from SC reports that shows independent directors are not so independent. A total of 414 listed companies seek for shareholders' approval to retain 742 independent non-executive directors in 2018 that have served the company exceed 9 years requirement by SC. In addition, 43 did not seek annual shareholders' approval, which means no appointment of independent director influenced by shareholders. This shows that the term independent non-executive directors doesn't reflect the independency so much anymore. A proper governance of a firm must uphold the audit institution that demands such principles, which are independency, accountability and transparency, becoming a practice for their own independent director. In 10 years of serving, does these principles will be there after a long honeymoon with the company? I think not, let alone 20 to 40 years of serving.
Assalamualaikum. I'm Ashraf. I'm presenting about the Bursa listing rules. According to the Bursa listing rules, paragraph 1.01, an independent non-executive director is independent from management and free from any business or other relationship which could interfere the exercise of the independent judgment or the ability to act in the best interest of a listed or the issuer. An independent director is who is not an executive director who manage the company to achieve its target. Then, independent non-executive director is also not someone from the company, whether it's officer or any executive. Independent non-executive director is not a major shareholder of the company. An independent director is paid by fee and allowances. Independent director is not a family relative of someone in the company. Someone, usually the board of director or any management team from the company. Then number 5, an independent non-executive director is not acting as nominee or representative from executive director. And the last one, independent director has not been engaged as an advisor by the company. So these all requirements stated are very clear, but to prove it sometimes a bit difficult. For example, to prove that someone is nominee a bit challenging, as most company listed tend to introduce their friends or someone has advantage such as has a strong contact with the government contract. Even the company has the nomination committee, but can be compromised when the major shareholders work behind the scene to get their known friends on the board as an independent non-executive director.
My name is Muhammad Aiman and I am from Group 5, and today I'll be presenting about the suggestions made by the author in the article How Independent Are Independent Directors. So in the article, the author made 3 suggestions in order to improve the independency of independent directors. So the first thing is that the author stated that the first main problem is regarding the nomination committee power to appoint the independent directors. As we all know, the nomination committee consists of chairman, deputy chairman and CEO. So all of these parties are internal parties. Therefore, there is a high likeliness that their decisions to appoint the independent directors might be influenced by the majority shareholders, because they are also the internal parties. So the author suggested that the appointment of independent directors should not be made by internal parties, but rather it must be made by external parties. So the author suggested that Institute of Corporate Directors, ICDM, should be the one who is responsible to appoint the independent directors, because they are the external parties. This is to ensure that the appointment of independent directors would be free from any influence of internal parties. Next, for the second suggestions, so in the article, the author's second concern is regarding the Bursa rules about the requirement to become independent directors. According to Bursa, anyone that has less than 5% of equity stakes in a company can become the independent directors of the company. The author disagrees with this by saying that even if an independent directors have a small amount of shares in a company, there still might be conflict of interest involved. Therefore, the author suggested that Bursa should amend this requirement to become independent directors in order to assure that a truly independent person is being appointed as independent directors. Next, for the third suggestion, in the article, the author raises the issue regarding Malaysian Corporate Code of Governance 2017 that allows maximum of 9-year tenure period for independent directors to work in a company. The author disagrees with this and argues that the 9-year tenure period is too long and the independent directors might get too comfortable with the company. The author said that if the independent directors get too comfortable, this might affect the independency of the independent directors in making a decision. Thus, the author suggested that the 9-year tenure period should be shortened to the ideal of maximum 3 years tenure period. And the author also said that ICDM can play a role in rotating the independent directors of listed companies in Malaysia. So I think that's all the suggestions made by the author in order to improve the independency of independent directors. Thank you.